All right, hello and welcome. How is everyone doing on what I hope is a fantastic Tuesday, June the 22nd? It is pretty good, doing pretty good. How are you doing today, John?
Not bad, thank you. Hello, everyone.
And Thomas wants to know, if it's YouTube, then why am I the only one who has this problem? I've got theories about what goes on. Honestly, I do think part of the issue on Friday. So for those who don't know, I had a stream on Friday where I was supposed to just be testing out this system I've been making for some biking, and I was gonna stream my entire bike ride, and it was a monumental disaster. I know that everyone had a lot of fun seeing me struggle with it, but like it was extremely frustrating. So I think what happened on that stream is that I had done a quick test stream, and I think YouTube was mad at me trying to stream too much and was like stopping it. For last night, man, I don't know. I have no idea what was going on last night. I don't know why my camera was flickering. I don't know why the sound was robotic on StreamYard. I'm glad it wasn't robotic on YouTube. So I don't know what was going on with that, but I'm hoping that last week Nvidia pushed out a graphics card update, one of their same day, they call it game day ready drivers. So like some big video game comes out and they release an update specifically to make sure you're getting the most out of that video game. And I don't know why I do these updates. I don't buy new video games. They're too expensive. But like the IT person in me goes, oh, there's a firmware update, I have to do it. And so I do it, and I do nothing but cause problems for myself, and I need to stop. It's a serious problem. I have a firmware update addiction, and I need to break free of it.
Yes. I put up doing updates as long as possible.
Yeah, I should do that. I should. That'd be smart, but I'm just not smart enough to do that. So I rolled back my drivers last night, and it seems like my webcam's not flickering at us. It seems like my voice isn't robotic. Like it was, John, you were saying it's a little staticky sometimes.
Yeah, it sounds pretty good right now, though.
Oh, which, you know what? The reason it's staticky is because no, I am doing the right one. Okay, never mind. I was gonna say I'm going straight to my microphone, but I'm not. I'm actually using the right source. So I don't know. It sounds good. That's the important thing. I think I just need to not update any drivers for a long time. Just leave it the way it is right now.
Exactly.
Yes. And you see, if I was a professional YouTuber, I'd like have a rig set up where like you never do an update. You let it, like, it's still on Windows 7 and you don't care about any virus concerns. You're like, no, this is my perfect streaming setup and I'm not touching it. But I'm not. I'm an IT person at heart. And let me get my my webcam pulled up here. So for those who don't know, my wife is doing a church event tonight, so I need to be on double duty. So I'm gonna have the kid cam up here, and if I suddenly disappear, do not fear. You are gonna be left in superior hands, perhaps. With John, he'll be able to keep things going.
Maybe. We hope.
Exactly. So, hey to everyone in the chat, 47 Yorktown, how are you doing tonight with the dolphin symbol? Will Darwin save the day tonight? Probably. I think almost every episode, Darwin has been pretty instrumental in saving the day, at least in season 2. Maybe I'm overstating it by an episode or two, but we're 11 episodes in, and I swear he has either said the phrase that leads everyone to solving the problem, or he has been directly responsible for like going out and just doing it himself. So we'll see if tonight carries on the trend, if he continues.
And hello, Robert, by the way.
Yes, hey Robert, how are you doing? Professor Brainy Specs wondering, can I break my 12-hour record for being late? Life with Matthew. I'm gonna, you know what? No, I'm actually I started right on time. Everything was smooth. I mean, I did want to start like 5 minutes early, so that if I had to do a restart, everyone wasn't sitting around waiting. But I didn't. I did not. I only started 2 minutes early. Minute and a half, maybe. Robert Green says, I thought it was on. See you in 30. Oh, yeah. I know. I do my schedule weird, and I half apologize for that. It's only half because, my... So I'll say something very sweet to my wife, and she goes, oh, you're sweet. You're just being nice. And I'm like, Amy, we all know. Everyone on the internet knows I'm not nice. I'm honest, and people mistake honesty as being nice, but it's not. So I'm only half sorry because I am sorry in the sense that it's confusing to people and it's inconvenient. So I'm aware that like that puts random people and like, oh gosh, what is Matt doing tonight? But I'm the other half not sorry because I'm like, well, you know what? This is my life, and this is Life with Matthew. So on Monday nights, I start the stream at 9 so that we can have a good long time to go over the nerd news of the week, hang out, have a few drinks, be it alcoholic or otherwise, and then wrap things up without it being too late these days. I start these streams at 9:30 so that it's not 2 nights in a row of just me disrupting bedtime schedules with the kids and with the wife. So you know, I'm sorry it puts you at an inconvenience, and I'm not sorry because you know, I love my wife and I want to make sure that I'm around to and not putting her in, you know, always having to put the kids to bed every night of the week, stuff like that. Thomas Potts, how are you doing? I agree with this John DiMarco person saying that your jokes are not stupid and everyone needs to keep me in line. It's
true.
It would keep a small country worth of accountability partners busy just keeping me on the straight and narrow and keeping track of all my stupid stuff. 47 Yorktown saying bicycles, love, and dolphins. That's me right there. Bicycle, love, and dolphins. And yes, Thomas is confused saying it's Tuesday, but yesterday was Wednesday. One of these days I'm going to ask Piano Dean to update that slide because I'm too lazy to do it myself, I guess.
Yes, perhaps, but not today.
Yes, but not today. And Robert Green, how are you doing? Bradley Briggs saying, Matthew, be like, if it's not broke, let's fix it anyway. Yes. I'm an engineer at heart. It has to be at heart because I definitely never got that diploma. But I do have the mindset of an engineer where I go, it's not broken. Let's see how I can fix that so that it is broken. And once it's broken, then I'll fix it. Like we just get bored of everything working. If everything's working, it means we're not doing our job. So let us, I don't know, let's get started here, I reckon, as people come in here. And you know, funny thing going on right now, in the YouTube studio, it's giving me a giant error message right now saying YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. And yet it is going perfectly on YouTube today. Yesterday, I was sending no data to YouTube and it was like, your stream quality is excellent health. You have an excellent connection. I'm like, what the heck, YouTube? Can you just give me accurate information? I don't know how other people...
No.
I don't know how other people don't have these problems. I do kind of wonder if it is a priority issue where YouTube specifically gives priority to large stream channels like the Gary Beeklers of the world and the Doomcocks of the world and Lady Mecha Random. I think that's her name. But you know, people like that who they have millions of subscribers or at the very least hundreds of thousands of subscribers. And then I come in here with my 300, which thank you everyone who has subscribed. I need to start doing more videos. And they're like, you know what, you're adorable, son. Go sit down. There's some more important bandwidth going on. So let us. I say this so many times. Let's get this going. I mean it every time, but then I just never do it. So for anyone who's new here, this is the way it works. In just a second, I am going to put the link to our screening room in the chat. And I'm actually going to pin this. And anyone who's joining us over on Twitch, I do apologize. Unfortunately, this is one area that YouTube does a better job than Twitch. With YouTube, it doesn't matter when you come into the stream. They show you like the past 2 hours worth of chats, and then they let you pin the message so people can see it. With Twitch, you have to be there. Like, no message shows up until you join the chat room, and then you only see the chats as long as you're there, and you have no way to pin the message. So I'll try to remember for anyone watching over on Twitch to drop the link every once in a while, but you can go to this link right now, and you're going to be able to watch the video along with us, assuming, of course, that you have a second monitor and you're not watching this on your cell phone. If you are watching this on the cell phone, or if you're in the future watching at some future date, you're going to have to watch this on your own. And that's either going to involve just enjoying the clips that we're going to provide below. So if you're on your phone right now and you can't open a second browser, don't worry, we got you covered. We do clips just so you can kind of see a visual reference of whatever John and I are talking about at the moment. If you're in the future and you want to watch it on a second browser window, go to peacocktv.com and you can sign up for a free account there if you don't have one yet, and you can watch all 3 seasons of SeaQuest. So hopefully, if this is some date far, far in the future, hopefully Peacock TV still exists, and hopefully they still are streaming SeaQuest here. If for any reason they're not, don't worry. You can go buy the DVDs. They exist out there, and honestly, you might even be able to find like some VHS tapes on eBay. Like, I would not at all be surprised. In fact, I'm gonna look right now. SeaQuest, DSV, VHS. Let's see what eBay has for me. Here we go. Yes, VHS tape, Greek subtitles. Ooh.
Ooh.
That's a keeper right there. I tell you what. Or you can just get all 3 seasons on Blu-ray off eBay and probably Amazon. This one is $100 for all 3 seasons. The DVDs look like it's running $20. I'm sure Amazon has this too that you could buy. So, I mean, there's lots of good options. So if you're enjoying these streams and you're enjoying SeaQuest, man, go enjoy it. Make sure that you have a physical copy in case someday, Peacock TV ever takes it down. But at least until then, you can watch it on Peacock TV for free. And that's awesome. Like, I wish I was shilling out for them. I wish you had a lot. This video contains paid content, but no, this is just free publicity that I give them each week, because I really do appreciate the fact that there was one stream I had where they actually gave me an automated content ID match. And I said, hey, this is what we're doing. This is, we're doing a transformative thing here. And they released it like within a couple days. I've never had any company like that be like, oh yeah, we're gonna let you give us free publicity. So I do enjoy giving Peacock TV a shout out, because they've made their service free. It's not another $5 or $10 thing like Netflix or Prime or Hulu or HBO Max or any of the other infinity streaming software or extreme streaming options you have out there these days. It's just free. And they actually play nice with us YouTubers. They actually understand, this guy's giving me free publicity. I'm going to let him give me free publicity instead of telling him to shut up. CBS. Excuse me, I had a little something lodged in the throat there. Yeah, a little CBS lodged in the throat there. Oh gosh, freaking CBS. Well, hopefully everyone's had a chance to come join us in the streaming room who wants to have this set up. And the reason this is allowed, guys, I do have my own copy of this, and whenever we get to do the Professor's telling me to shut up, Matthew. I will in just a second. Whenever we get to do the Babylon 5 stuff, I am actually going to go out and I'm going to buy the remastered off Amazon, because one season is like $30. So no more than 9 months to now, if we keep the current schedule, we're going to start doing Babylon 5. And I'll have my own physical copy And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be watching my physical copy, and the SciTube just syncs all our watch times up together. And it's only available while this stream is live. After the stream is over, that's it. I'm sorry, you're going to have to either go buy your own copy or you're going to have to watch on Peacock TV. So that's the reason we're allowed to do this. So everyone, please play nice and make sure that you get it legally, because you don't have to sail the high seas. You can watch this for free. Thank you so much, Peacock TV. So with that free shilling out of the way, what do you say we get this party going?
Sounds good to me.
All right, so we'll give you a quick countdown from 5 here, and we will get this going. So cue this up, people, and we're going to start here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go. So the show starts off, and we got Jim and Tim and Lewis singing. There she was, just walking down the street singing "Do Wah Diddy Diddy Dum Diddy Do," and we find out that somehow Henderson has flunked sexual harassment training. The girl got a 62 on sexual harassment training, and apparently the thing that did it was there was an essay portion, and she wrote something like "been there, done that, kicked the guy down," and that was an unacceptable answer apparently. Which, I mean, you wrote that today. I couldn't imagine that joke being made today, and I couldn't imagine any sexual harassment training seminar actually flunking a woman. Like, have you ever had to do... Or go on, John.
I would say, well, you saw her with Dagwood last week, so it's not really a surprise.
Yeah. Now, have you ever had to do those training seminars at your work, John?
Fortunately not.
I had to, like... It wasn't like we had any problem with it at the company. It's just they decided that every year we were going to waste a week. Every year, everyone had to waste a week doing this sexual harassment training seminar done by the quote-unquote Native American people who were whiter than I was, and their names were like Diamond or River, something like that. And it was hilarious because that like they asked, like, if a woman is wearing like a very seductive dress, does that mean you're allowed to compliment her? And one of the ladies there was like, yes, that's why I'm wearing the dress. and she like just so happened to be dressed to the nines that day anyway, like the plunging neckline, the high cut dress. And she's like, yes, I dress this way because I want people to notice that I put a lot of effort into this. And that was not the right answer, but she did not get dinged for it. And meanwhile, they have been caught up in another vortex of some kind. And there's just this giant gaping hole in the ocean floor bed. They picked up a distress call, but it made no sense because the distress call was coming from someone who was like 5,000 miles away. Clearly on the other side of the world, they said. And yet it was also immediately beneath them. And Thomas is saying, wait, a physical copy of the remastered on Amazon? Yes. Amazon, they are selling the whole season for $30 for the remastered. Or, well, I say physical, excuse me. I mean digital physical. It's something where you purchase and you own it yourself is what I mean by physical. So you're right. I'm using the term physical quite loosely. I mean, I get to own my own copy, and I'm not just streaming this off Netflix or something.
So in other words, when he says physical, he means really the opposite of physical.
It does. It does. It's too broad of a... I'm being too generous with my terminology. So they managed to land on this random ledge. And all the water has drained away. They're doing some air tests, and yes, we can breathe the air. It's okay, so they can take off their emergency masks, but they're kind of beat up. They got banged around, and And Sam over here, Neil, he's quite convinced he has broken his leg. Which, as someone who has fractured and sprained and twisted and almost broken so many different body parts, I was never that composed and calm when I was in a break situation. Like, there's a lot more than just, ooh, I think I broke something.
Of course, these are trained UEO professionals. They only take the best.
That's right. He's on the flagship, too.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy drops into their sub, and it's Marcus Rawlings, the man who was sending out the distress call. And he informs us that they are 10 miles beneath the mantle of the earth, in this strange cavern. But unfortunately, his pod over there is kind of crash landed. I'm like, well, why are you so sorry to meet us? He goes, well, because judging on the condition of your craft, we're all going to die down here. And then we cut to the intro. And Bradley's saying it would have been really funny if she got a 69 in that training. You know, I wonder if they thought about it and decided that it wouldn't make it past the censors. And Professor Brainy Specs, yes. I can't remember who was named Diamond and who was named River, but it was a husband and wife couple who kind of adopted themselves into Native American New Ageism. So they had no family members who were Indian. Like, they were upfront about this. It's just they decided that they were kind of the children of the hippies, and they wanted to they wanted to be Indian, so they just kind of culturally appropriated it and went around teaching other people not to do that, more or less.
Sounds very problematic.
If you stop to think about it, it was, but no one ever stopped to think about it. I mean, these people were somehow like best friends with the president of this company, so no one ever really stopped too much to question any of the things they did. Thomas is saying he thinks the woman would have been named Diamond. You'd like to think that, but I don't know. They were an interesting couple. So the crew is rallying behind Bridger, saying that he thinks they're coming up to say we need to give it up. That B'Elanna Troy over here can't sense them. That means they're probably dead or in like a lead enclosed chamber, because apparently she can sense people anywhere on the face of the planet, more or less, but not if they're in a lead enclosed chamber. That's a limitation on her abilities.
Yeah, still undetermined if she can sense through kryptonite.
So, I mean, her powers must be like somehow like radioactive in a certain way, operating at a high energy wavelength. If lead is what stops you?
Apparently.
And Thomas says he's never broken a bone. I technically have never broken a bone. I just got really, really, really close. It was like a 90% of the way through fracture. So our quartet here is kind of gathering up supplies, finding out what their situation is, and they begin to ask Marcus, how did you get down here? And he's like, well, honestly, it was kind of like a lack of common sense. He was tracking some strange volcanic activity, some strange earthquakes that just couldn't be explained based on the plate tectonic movement. So he theorized that there must be these caverns beneath the mantle. And he was examining some seabed, and a sinkhole opened up right beneath him, and he was pulled over the course of like 10 days, I think they said, 5,000 miles. And he settled here. So Lewis is putting it all together. This is basically one big old faithful. That the water pools in this area, it drains into the mantle below, gets superheated, and then it reverses and explodes upward. And, you know, Jim over here, he's calling him out. He's like, well, wait a minute. That means that you must have known that anyone who got close enough to your distress buoy would have been pulled in. And he's like, well, why didn't you include a message? Why didn't you reprogram the buoy to say, you look out, you're going to get sucked in? And, you know, Marcus is kind of blasé about this. He doesn't really address the issue. But just to make matters worse, his pod is not only in a complete state of disarray, but he's also out of oxygen. And each time this surge happens, which appears to happens like once every 15 hours or so, his pod is getting sucked closer and closer into an even deeper layer. And he's worried that if he gets dragged down all the way down, he's going to die completely.
As opposed to dying partially, I suppose.
Right. And Lewis is wondering, well, wait a minute, you haven't told us what actually caused these caverns. And Marcus goes, well, the answer is I don't know, but whatever it wasn't natural. That something must have made these tunnels and caverns. And Piccolo's at the helm today. Good for him. So they've gone to what they believe to be the center point of the distress call that the SeaQuest sub got off. And he's like, look, just anyone who senses anything, you read anything, just come on, everyone. Just tell me where you are. Don't be afraid to speak up. The good old O'Neill, he's doing his best to get some communication equipment set up. Bradley saying that he's had a toe ripped off by a board full of nails. Ouch.
Oh.
But stitch it back on if that counts. I think that counts. Yes. Yes, it does. So Lewis he's trying to think of some idea to get them all out of this because they recognize that they're pretty much screwed. There's no more messages buoys to get off. This another message, a distress call. But maybe what they can do is use this this pod that Marcus has. It is an extremely durable pod. And yes, it's out of oxygen. And yes, we have no way to control it, but maybe we can jury rig things up with Henderson's help because her dad, you know, I forget what her backstory was, but her dad was basically just always jury rigging things aboard the vessel he was on. And then they start to hear something. It's not a message, but it's something they can feel, something low pitched coming up through the mantle itself. And Lewis says, I don't know what it is, but yeah. Go on, John.
Something's coming. Yeah, something's coming.
And then we see what that something is. It is a huge flamethrower just spouting through the wall. And Frank Herbert, I think, needs to do some suing here because we got us some sandworms living beneath the mantle of the crust that can shoot flamethrowers to melt rock, I guess.
They're underwater, so it's not exactly the same thing, you know.
Not quite true. It's just a giant worm.
I know it does look just like a sandworm. Fortunately, Brody's got his own flamethrower.
So they grab their own oxygen and they set it afire. to try and fight the creature back, he gives kind of a shot back with his own psychic flame shot, magic missile. I'm not sure, but he after that he decides it's not worth it and leaves. And Bradley's saying, I learned a life lesson that day. Ignore your parents and climb through the window you climbed out of, running around the house to use the door and did badly. Yikes.
Yeah.
But for some reason, Brody's run off. And things are going to take a bit of a bad turn here. The oxygen generator ended up getting burned out as they were using it to do this flamethrower maneuver. So all they have left is the oxygen in the emergency unit. So they're basically screwed. Once the water comes roaring back through here, they're history. And remember, the way this water works is it's superheated lower down in the mantle. So, I mean, when this water comes back up, it should be superheated water. Just keep that in mind. Then aboard the SeaQuest, they're still continuing the hunt. They're trying to figure out what's going on here. And Ford he's frustrated. He's like, come on, we should at least have found some wreckage at this point. We've crisscrossed the ocean floor. And Bridger's saying, no, you don't understand. This is actually a good thing. Like, this is a helpful thing. Like, if we haven't found any wreckage, that means they're probably still alive. So let's circle back around. Let's go back to what we thought was the epicenter of all this, and let's do another loop. We're going to go even more slowly because we've got to find our people. And you can see the SeaQuest going by, and they pan down just a little bit to the filled in rock crater that the mini sub got sucked down in the hole. So the SeaQuest is just going back and forth, just barely missing them each time. But unfortunately, B'Elanna Troy's suddenly limited in her psychic powers today and just can't pick them up. And of course, they don't notice anything. It's a pile of rocks on a seabed. There's lots of piles of rocks on the seabed. And unfortunately, Lewis, he's making the worst discovery right now. He realizes that there's only 4 emergency masks, but there's 5 people. But it's okay because there's only really enough space for the sub here for 4 people. So who's gonna stay? And Lewis says, this is so interesting. Lewis says we should just keep working. We're gonna have to worry about this later. And Jim is actually saying, you know what? No, we can't do this we can't work on it with this hanging over our heads. Jim, the commander, who should be taking the lead on all this, is actually getting it pretty wrong. Like, Lewis is the one thinking logically about all this. And Jim is saying, well, you know what? I think this is actually easier than we're giving ourselves credit for. The guy who got us into this should be the guy who gets us out of it. He thinks that Marcus should stay behind. And O'Neill points out that, look, under maritime law, we have to prioritize civilians first. But Marcus says, no. I'm going to make this easy for you. I'm no more civilian than Lewis is a child. And O'Neill says, look, in that case, the only option left is to ask for a volunteer. And I love this line he says right now. He points out that he says, you know what? No offense, but beside the fact that I'm injured, I'm also the only one here who actually believes in a higher being, and I have more faith in it than anyone here. And he's saying that because of this, because of his faith, because he does believe in what comes next, he's the logical choice. He should stay behind because he is confident about where his soul is going to go, and he is confident that no one else here shares his faith. Which is a great callback. I love it too, John. And it's a callback to what was it, season 1, when O'Neill was kind of having that crisis of faith, or was that here in season 2? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was the end of season 1 when they first found the aliens.
Yeah. So I love the fact that they're calling back to this again. That it wasn't just a one-time shot. But again, Lewis points out, no. The only way to do this fair is by a lottery. Something that, frankly, Jim should have been thinking about. Lewis is the one who recognizes what they should do. And he says, we'll do the lottery the last second, but in the meantime, he whispers to O'Neill, maybe you can be praying that it never even comes up. And even though he doesn't share O'Neill's faith, he's genuine in this statement, which is something you'd never see today. You would never see anyone except, that would be such a mocking and derisive thing if someone said it today. Like, oh, well, maybe you can pray in the meantime. But Lewis actually shows a level of respect for someone who has a set of beliefs that he doesn't share with.
Meanwhile, we're at the point where Darwin's going to have the key to saving the day.
It's true. Darwin is actually begging to go out and search for the people himself. He's saying, put the breather on me. I'll go and find them. And Bridger's saying, no, we're not going to do that. And Ford goes, look, is it because you're scared? Because I wouldn't blame you. No one would blame you to be scared of whatever taking the mini-sub getting Darwin also. And Darwin says, well, I'm not afraid. Darwin, famous shark fighter. Or shark biter, something like that. And Bridger's convinced and says, okay, you can go out, but you've got to be careful. And you make sure you bring me back news that they're still alive. And Thomas is saying they should leave the straight white guy. I think they have 4 options for that then. I mean, maybe Marcus isn't white. I've never been quite good at figuring out the difference between white and Hispanic from Europe, which is kind of like an olive tone. So Henderson's trying to put these engines on the pod. She's trying to get technical information out of him, and he's kind of flirting back with her, or not flirting back. He's flirting at her. He's like, well, I was really hoping that when I sent the message buoy, I guess the only thing I was thinking was, I hope there's a woman as beautiful as you are in the rescue team. And she goes, well, does that line ever work? He goes, maybe once. I got rescued off Everest. And that worked for the girl? He goes, well, to be honest, I don't know if it was a girl. We were really, really cold, experiencing hypothermia at the time. I think it was a girl. So he's, having this nice moment with her, and she's starting to have a panic attack because it's a pretty intense situation for them. Stuck 10 miles beneath the Earth mantle. They got one shot to get out of here. Someone, at minimum, one person's going to die from all this. Someone's going to be left behind. And they only have 15 hours, well, less than that now, but they have a total of 15 hours to hopefully get the pod jury-rigged up enough to get out of here. And she says, I can't believe I'm gonna ask this, but can you just hold me until the shakes go away? And so Marcus, he takes one for the team, but he says, sure, I'll hold you, Henderson.
Not sure it's such a sacrifice for him.
So Lewis is trying to figure out some math here, I think. And Brody comes up and he says, maybe this would be your best chance to tell her. Lewis is like, what? Tell her what? He goes, well, tell her that you got a crush on Henderson. And I guess Henderson is just gonna be the one everyone crushes on, like for season 2 here.
Well, the choices are her or B'Elanna Troy.
Admittedly, the options are limited, but like you'd think you could have like a guest star every once in a while to not just be like, and Henderson is going to be in love with O'Neill this week, with Jim this week, with Dagwood this week. It's like there are other people. Bradley's saying she better be careful. She'll be taking one for the team. I'm assuming you mean when she draws a short straw. I can't think of anything else that sentence could be referring to.
Mm-hmm.
So fortunately, the team has pulled together. They're ready to power up the thrusters and see if this all works out. So they stand clear as Lewis gives it a test firing, and it works. Thank goodness it all works. And the peasants rejoiced. At least 80% of them do. Lewis is still very somber because Lewis is still the only one down here thinking in cold, hard logic. He goes, well, there's only one more thing to do. It's time to hold the lottery. Time to draw straws. So he grabs a nearby bag and he says he got 5 wires. One of them is short. So who wants to go first? So Jim decides to go first. He grabs the first one, and it's a long one. Brody is safe. O'Neill's up. He takes one. Looks to be a long straw. He holds it up to Brody and compares straw lengths. So Lewis offers it to Marcus and says, you want to take your shot? And he goes, no, ladies first, it's better odds. Which is half true. But Lewis points out that when you really stop to think about it, the odds are equally same for everyone. Which he's wrong, actually. Now, John, you're a math guy. And so you're probably quite aware that he is wrong. The first person has a 1 in 5 chance, or 20% of getting the short. The next one has a 25%. Then you're down to a 1 in 3 chance, so 33%. So each time you're actually more likely, even though at the beginning everyone had a technically 1 in 5 chance.
It turns out that Lewis got the short straw.
And Brody says, look, that's not fair. Let's do it again. And to his credit, Lewis is really just on point today. And he responds with, no, it's absolutely fair. We all did this together. We all decided on what the rules were, and I just happened to be the one that draw the short straw. We're not going to redo it just because I'm a child. Like the volunteering stage is over. The B'Elanna Troi, she's doing her best, just trying so hard. And she's kind of hoping that eventually one of them will go to sleep, because maybe when people are asleep, it's a little easier to sense them, to scan them. So Bradley Briggs, here you are being kind of proven right about taking one for the team. Henderson shows up, talking to our man Lewis. And yes, Thomas, it was a bunch of men in a small space measuring their straws. And one lady. And Lewis, he's being kind of philosophical in a scientific way about it. He goes, well, look, this is basically just the greatest experiment. Either it's all gonna work out, I'm gonna be okay, or I'm gonna find out the answer to life's big questions. What comes next? And Henderson, she's trying to be noble. She's saying we have the smallest body masses. We could share a breather, and maybe we can make it out together because we take the least amount of oxygen. Which, again, I'm not 100% sure that's how it works. When an athletic person has no like body fat on him, lean, low body mass, would he use less oxygen perhaps than someone bigger? I don't know. I'm not I can
sure.
talk.
I think it would depend more on how much physical activity you're doing, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I'm confident in math, but not as much in biology. And she wants to know if Lewis wants anything, people's desserts, some supplies, or maybe just for me to be with you, take one for the team. And I'm sorry, I'm a little annoyed with what they're doing with Henderson, just kind of having her be the everyone dates her kind of character. Like I thought she had a more fun character when we first saw her with her lucky bear, and with the Seymour episode, the giant plants. I thought she was being fun, but it seems like they're kind of pushing her in. Wow, that's a Freudian slip. They're pushing her into this village bicycle role.
Well, she's just sitting there comforting him,
Well, because Lewis is an honorable man. We've seen this in the past where he was at that party, where he and his kind of quasi girlfriend were thinking about taking the next step in their relationship, as it were, and they eventually decided to abstain. But they did so because Lewis is an honorable man. So we're continuing to see that Lewis chooses to be a man of principle and not a man of hormones. Robert saying I said it right. Oh, wow. But thankfully, because Lewis fell asleep, B'Elanna Troi is able to sense him. And she's rejoicing. He's alive. We're alive. So that must mean she's close enough to them to actually be able to sense him. But just before you think things are good, look out, everyone. Here comes Old Faithful. The water is starting to fill the cavern again. And remember, this should be boiling hot water, superheated by the mantle core. I've never been to Old Faithful, but I'm pretty sure they make you stand back just a little bit so you don't get splashed by the water. So B'Elanna, she runs up. I could sense them. So Bridger tells everyone to stop. They must be close. And Darwin to save the day.
Too much salt.
Yeah, he says, something's weird. I can't find anyone, but the water is wrong. There's too much salt. And Ford says, well, where Marcus, he was in this trench, and it was a higher salt content in the trench. So they're like, well, maybe somehow the water from the trench is ending up here. So Bridger says, I'm willing to put my money on B'Elanna and Darwin. So we go to conditions 3, and we're going to try and go to this spot where the water tastes wrong. Thomas wants to know, did I get this off peacocktv.com or another website that has lots of peacocks? I got this off peacocktv.com. Thank you for asking, Thomas. Peacocktv.com for all your SeaQuest needs. So they get to this jury-rigged pod, and Rawlings is missing. Where's Marcus? Lewis tries to run off to find him, but they said, just get in. So they drag Lewis back in, and there's Marcus on the video phone. He says, what are you doing? And Marcus says, I'm not going to do this to you. You're just a kid. You're younger than I am, and you're going to be a better science than I am. I'm not going to take your spot. And Lewis says, we're going to send you a rescue pod. But hey, and Marcus says, you better, but hey, when you give a moving speech, be sure to really tell them about how noble I was. It'll really make all my ex-girlfriends, mourn my loss. Thomas wants to know if I understood what you meant. I may be getting some double entendre now that you've asked, but no, I originally did not get what you meant. That one definitely went blissfully over my head, as so much of life does.
Indeed.
So thankfully because they were able to jury rig this pod, they're able to ride this superheated water up through this corridor. And fortunately, Henderson is doing a much better job this time of really riding the needle, staying right in the middle, and not being slammed up against the wall. But all's not well.
O'Neill's out of air.
Apparently, even though he was a pretty light body mass as well, he ended up using more oxygen, which I'll grant to him. He has a broken leg and is being just thrown about the cabin. There's probably some heavy breathing going on his part to not be screaming in pain. But finally, Jim steps up to the plate and offers O'Neill his air. And the pod comes just bursting out. But they're not out of the clear yet. They didn't have enough engines left because while Henderson was doing good, she wasn't perfect. They lost one of the engines, and they're starting to get sucked back into the sinkhole. And now Brody's starting to go unconscious, and Lewis has offered up his oxygen because we at least need Henderson to be conscious. And it's not because she's a woman. It's because she's the one driving the ship. Like, they are being extremely practical about this.
Mm-hmm. And she is actually the helmsman.
Yeah. Like, you want the driver to stay awake. Which is honestly how O'Neill got his leg broken in the first place. He was busy putting the face mask on Henderson while she was driving, like trying to keep it from bouncing around going into the sinkhole. So as a result, he wasn't in his crash position in time and got kind of thrown around the cabin a little bit. But thankfully, the SeaQuest comes through, because of Darwin, they were in the right spot at the right time. They send out the grappler hook, and grab on to this pod. And even though they got him hooked, no one's answering their hail. And remember, at this point, basically 3 of the people are out of oxygen. O'Neill's out of oxygen. Brody temporarily ran out of oxygen. And now Lewis had to give up his oxygen. So they're kind of hurting here. But don't worry, they're docked with the SeaQuest. They're getting pulled out. And Lewis, he's looking around. He's not ready to give up yet. And he says, what's docked at the second port? Well, the Stinger is. The ship that he made in season 1.
And off he goes.
Because he's not willing to give up on Marcus quite yet. So Lewis is quickly prepping the Stinger. And he tries to run past Dagwood, but Dagwood stops him. And he says, we're friends. I'm not going to let you go on your own. I'm coming with you. And Lewis says, no, you're not coming, because if you do, you're just going to die with me. Which I think is a little morbid of Lewis. You never go on a rescue mission unless you think you're going to succeed. So he does have the right attitude at heart. Because even though he says that out loud, you can tell he thinks he's coming back from this. And Bridger's saying, Lewis, please don't do this. Which, we haven't gotten to enjoy too many episodes this season where Bridger and Lewis really got to bond. But it's here and there. And this is one of the moments where you really get to see Bridger with that father-like figure, or father-like relationship with Lewis, calling him back, but at the same time trusting him to go and be able to do this. So the SeaQuest is now walking Lewis through this procedure. And in they go once more into the breach. And Lewis is talking about, okay, he's got this. I just need to keep off the walls. And thankfully Dagwood is there, because he goes, I think you should avoid the rocks too. And Lewis was so busy looking at his readout that he wasn't even paying attention to the fact there was a giant rock hurtling up this tunnel toward him. But thankfully he was able to dodge it, and he didn't even have to reconfigure his ship like some other sci-fi entity out there had to do to get past a giant asteroid and a wormhole. Or slipstream, or whatever they're calling it that episode. Now, the Stinger is much larger than I remember it being in the past.
I was thinking that 3 people in the Stinger is going to be a pretty tight fit.
And thankfully Dagwood did come, because without Dagwood, there's no way Lewis would have been able to get Marcus up into the Stinger. And Bridger's desperately trying to get them back on the communicator. Unfortunately, he's just too far deep into the cavern. But he's coming back up. He's able to reestablish contact. But it's the sandworm. Frank Herbert, bless his heart, his sandworm is back, and he's chasing after Lewis. And then the SeaQuest just shoots his phasers. Yeah. The SeaQuest kills this creature.
Bullseye.
This possibly one of a kind, Nobel Prize winning discovery creature of the ocean, and the SeaQuest just decimates it.
Well, as Bridger said in was one of those episodes of the first season, it's when they were arguing about the library at Alexandria. He said he'd rather destroy it than anybody lose their life over it.
True. Bridger does recognize that human life is inherently worth more than animal life.
Mm-hmm.
And Marcus says on his way out, if there's anything you ever need, Lewis, just let me know. And Lewis basically gives him the same line back at him. He says, look, when you're talking to the media, what you can do is you tell them how self-sacrificing it was, and maybe I'll actually get a girlfriend. Josh Street saying, life with Matthew, so let them be worm food or keep them alive. It's true, those are the two choices, and Bridger chose to keep them alive. And Robert, thank you so much, saying, great play-by-play. I miss my true calling. I don't know about that, but I'm glad you enjoyed it this week. And Ortiz is here this week to tell us about the difference between sea lions and seals. And apparently the sea lions have long flipper-like flippers. Or long wing-like. He said long wing-like flippers. Whereas seals are somewhat more sociable. And sea lions got the name sea lion because they have this long, loud howl, kind of like a lion has. So there you go. That's the difference between a sea lion and a seal. So Darwin, how did you enjoy this week's episode?
Well, I'm sure Darwin appreciated it, and so did I. Not only was it an exciting episode with action, I liked some of the more philosophical discussions they had and issues while they were trapped in their cavern. We talked about that scene with O'Neill and his faith, so I appreciated that. Even how the other characters, if they didn't share his faith, they were respectful of it.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that Brody said, "We're not going to use your faith against you. It'll make you stay behind."
Mm-hmm. And yes, Thomas, I did say long flipper-like flippers. I meant long wing-like flippers. That's what Ortiz said.
And yes, Professor, he did call me Darwin, but I'll take that as a compliment.
Did I really?
Yes, you did. He said, Darwin, how did you like that episode?
Wow. That's bad even for me. Usually...
Yeah, we're used to it by now.
Usually I can at least get the name of the person I'm talking to right, especially after I said their name like 20 times already. Sorry, John.
Like I said, there's worse things you could be called, far worse.
But no, I do agree with you. I really loved the interaction with O'Neill at that point. One, that they let him have that position at all. Like so often in film, the only point of having a Christian or having someone who professes a higher power on a show is for them to be the Ned Flanders or the Kaiopaka, where they're ultimately a hypocrite, where they just don't want anyone to have fun, or they're there because it's not that they actually believe in a higher power, it's just that they use religion to gain control over other people. So to let someone just have a genuine faith and let that genuine faith actually impact how they're going to make their decisions in life was fantastic. And I say this, like, if they had a Buddhist guy up there, I would have the same response. I would be going, wow, that's not something I agree with, but I love the fact that they showed a religion in a positive light instead of just, oh, well, here's a hypocrite, and that they were respectful even though they didn't share his religion. I really enjoyed that. But obviously, yes, I especially like the fact that they portrayed a Christian that way. Yeah, we all have our biases, and I'm upfront about my biases, and I being a Christian, I appreciate whenever film actually depicts a Christian not necessarily as the way we act. We're not perfect people, but as the way we're supposed to act, as the way we've been called to act in the Bible. So I really appreciate that they did that. Was there anything in the episode that was a detriment for you? Something something you thought made the episode worse?
It doesn't hurt the episode that much for me, but some of the scientific issues that don't really make sense here. You said the issue with the superheated water, and the caverns cut out by a sandworm with a flamethrower. I think that part was kind of silly, although it was entertaining.
Yeah. I did enjoy that it was, minus the sandworm part, it wasn't a super action episode. A lot of season 2 has been a lot more action driven, which nothing wrong with that. I love me a good action show. It's just, if like SeaQuest started off as a more thought-provoking show, and so I like it when they return back to what really drew me in season 1, making you think. Like, if I'm going to watch an action show, I'm going to go watch Knight Rider and be like, yeah, I know what I'm in for. When I sit down and watch Quantum Leap, I know what I'm in for. So I do like that it was more thought-provoking. One of the things I did think about in this episode was this was kind of a variation on a theme from an episode on what they did in season 1 with the saltwater sinkhole or freshwater sinkhole, where the mini sub was looking for those French kids who were out on patrol, and then like there's a pocket of water that was fresh water, and it just so happened to splurt upwards. I don't know the scientific names for all this. It's been a while since I've watched the episode, obviously. But in real life, that does happen a lot off the coast of Florida, where you get these freshwater areas of the ocean, and it causes a change in your buoyancy, and you sink rapidly, and it's a very dangerous situation. So it was interesting in that you had this variation on theme, whereas in season 1, it was more like, this is a real scientific thing, and this is how this real scientific ocean thing could affect someone. And in season 2, it was like, here's a more out there sci-fi idea, but here's how these people are organically reacting to the sci-fi situation. So I still enjoyed it. It was just an interesting way to see how season 2 has really split off from where they were in season 1.
I do agree with Thomas. The empathic stuff's not my favorite aspect of the episode. I think the episode would have been just fine without Milana Troy's contributions. All you really need was Darwin to find him anyway.
Yeah. I mean, just to be in the right area at the right time was all they really needed. And then it could have been like, oh, wow, something just exploded out of the floor bed. Oh, it's a shuttle pod. Okay, we got it. Mm-hmm. Darwin saves the day as usual.
Exactly.
And Bradley's saying that SeaQuest is like Stargate, just without the stars and the gates. That sounds like something I'd try to pass off as accurate. I do agree with you, though, John and Tom. I too am not a super big fan of the empathic stuff. Like, I know they brought it up in season 1, where it seemed like O'Neill was a little bit empathic, Ortiz was a little bit empathic, Bridger was a little bit empathic. It seemed like Bridger and O'Neill were kind of the main two psychically inclined people. So it was at least out there. It seems like they're really tripling down on it with Milana this season. Well, John, any final thoughts about this episode?
I think it's one of my favorites from this season so far.
Let's see. What have we... Let me get my episodes pulled up here. What have we seen so far in this season?
I'll go with the list here.
Let's see. We've seen Daggers Part 1 and 2. Which, okay, fair enough. The Fear That Follows, that was the Halloween-like episode.
That was when the aliens came back.
Is that... Oh, you're right. You're right. It was... Was it Sympathy for the Deep? Was that the Halloween one?
Well, that's where they found there's a colony where they were experiencing, their violence and emotions.
Yeah. And they thought people were turning into demons, but it was just
Yeah.
this thing that absorbed too much negative energy. Vapors. Vapors. I don't
Yeah,
remember
that's the
Vapors.
one with the that was the episode. Not a lot happened action wise. There's a lot of character stuff like Piccolo and his mother, and O'Neill and Henderson went out on a date, and that kind of stuff.
Okay. Okay. And then Playtime. Man, I'm not remembering much from this season.
That's the one where they went to the future and there was humanity had been destroyed
Yes.
by the plague.
Yes, and time being a loop. And they brought Adam and Eve back, kind of, sort of, maybe. Kind of. The sincerest form of flattery.
That was the rogue sub that had the Bridger AI in control.
Okay. Okay. By any other name.
That was the Killer Plants.
Ah, of course, the Seymour episode. When the Dead Awaken. Okay, that was Jim's mom coming out of cryosleep. I remember that one. And then Special Delivery being the one with Dagwood's clones.
Mm-hmm.
And Thomas Potts wondering, have we watched the episode Dead End yet? Yes, we have just watched the episode Dead End. So yeah, of all these, I would say that Dead End is my favorite so far.
Yeah, I think so.
With the sincerest form of flattery probably being my number 2.
That was a good one too.
Well, cool. Well, next week we're going to be watching episode 12, Meltdown, which I can actually remember because I'm looking right at it because I have the list open right now.
That helps.
It does help. It helps a lot. And we're just moving right along. I'm honestly surprised by, just the fact that season 3 is a half season, that they didn't do the full 20 some odd episodes. We only get 13. So 11 left for this season. We got 24 episodes of SeaQuest overall left, and that's going to be it. We're going to be out of SeaQuest. We'll have to transition over to Babylon 5.
9 months.
No more than 9 months, which obviously, if we are able to do one every single week, 24 episodes, we're looking at 6 months. So I'm saying worst case scenario, surely I'm not going to have 12 weeks where I flake in the next half year. Or at least more than 12 weeks.
One would hope not. Don't call me Shirley.
Oh, gosh. Thomas Potts is saying I probably won't be at season 3 by now with all the delays. Or I probably would be at season 3 now if it weren't for all the delays. I did have a lot of delays. But thankfully we did get that worked out and got on a good night. Like Tuesday seems like it's just being a perfect night in my schedule for this to happen. So I'm very glad we got this worked out. Bradley Briggs saying that this show is like Andromeda. It's not perfect, but it ends way too soon.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Now, to be fair, I did feel like Andromeda ended at a good time. Simply because the people who really loved and nurtured it were taken away from the show. And what we got in that last 2 seasons, I want to say, just wasn't the quality that it deserved. So I do wish they could have wrapped it up more cleanly. I wish that they hadn't made the Nietzschean guy do like this 180 on his character. But, wishes and horses and beggars and riders and all that good stuff. So guys, let's wrap it up. Got a hopefully early morning. Wow. I swear I can talk. I got an early morning bike stream that I'm looking forward to doing tomorrow. We'll see how it goes, everyone. I'm going to be going to a spot about half an hour from me, I think it is. It's really nice. It's this great, just straight path between a city called Denton and another city called Decatur. And it's so pleasant. The only question I'm going to have is, am I going to have stable cell reception out there? So I may be shooting myself in the foot by going to an area with no cell reception, but we'll see.
Yes, we'll get ready by turning our monitors upside down.
No, okay, Thomas, I've worked that out. I've worked that out. You don't have to turn it upside down this week. Everything should just work. And I've tested it. If I lose connection, it should automatically come up as soon as I'm back in cell phone range. So maybe you see a lot of red exclamation points on the screen because all my data's lost. Maybe you don't see the bicycle camera, but at least it will come back up as soon as I'm back in range.
Yes, and we'll get the digital readout of how fast he crashes his bike into the little old lady.
That poor little old lady.
Mm-hmm.
I just about gave her a heart attack. It was the worst. It was the worst. I am the worst. Gosh.
It's true.
Well, guys, you take it easy. I look forward to seeing you. Probably going to start the stream around 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Maybe I'll be able to start a little bit sooner than that, but if all goes well, I'll be doing it for a while. So jump in anytime you like and see how it's going. And until then, everyone, take it easy.
Good night.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to hit that like button and share it with your friends. If you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will. And be sure to hit that bell icon to be notified of all the updates I do on this channel. If you want to support the work I'm doing here, then I hope you'll consider becoming one of my Patreons, where you'll get early access to all kinds of videos. And until the next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.